Hello, everybody. It's Craig Fisher. I'm here with Jim Durbin, and we are very excited to talk to you about the Indeed implication, their new rules that are going to be strategic ATS optimization tips for staffing firms. We're going to discuss today what's going on with Indeed, how it is affecting agencies, staffing firms. We'll talk a little bit about how it's affecting your customers at the enterprise level and what you can be doing to prepare yourself best for what's coming. And what's coming is Indeed has suggested it will no longer take new XML feeds to advertise jobs. That's a problem en masse. It's a problem programmatically. It's a problem for any new customer you want to onboard and advertise jobs for. So this is a tricky situation. We've learned a few things in the last couple of weeks that Jim and I are going to share. Jim, how are you? What's going on? I know you're not feeling 100% today.
But I've had enough coffee to fake it. Thanks for asking. Too hot for the hat. We'll call it that way. Pretty good. You know, it's been a really interesting summer with all the changes we've seen Indeed do. And just putting all these trends together. The reason we decided to do this is for people who don't know, Craig and I have remarkably similar careers. We both started in staffing. Well, we did sales and marketing before, and then staffing, SEO, employment branding. But we've always had a soft spot in our hearts for staffing, just because once it's in your blood, it's hard to get out. And I've been predicting for about 2 years now that the rise of automation and AI and all these things we're seeing, all these different tools and all the pushes for TA, all that stuff is going to be a golden decade for headhunters. And I think I'm seeing that. The larger firms that are all focused on revenue are struggling. Anybody who's kind of living at old school, you know, I got 30 open recs and 28 of them are garbage. They're struggling. But people who are actually talking to candidates have the one thing nobody else has, which is they're real. They're not ghosted. They're making bank. And so the question when Indeed pops up, so many companies are asking about this, about sources and others, is what do we do? And I guess, what do we do, Craig? Do we teach you how to do better with Indeed? Because we can do that. We're both great at that. That's literally what we do for a living. Or do we start focusing a little bit on the future of what we do in a post-Indeed world? So I think that's really the question we have today. And for anybody watching, if you're throwing questions, we'd love to know which direction you want us to take. We've got a presentation. It's interesting. It's fun. Craig's a good presenter, so we can go from there. But ultimately, which direction do you see? Because this isn't about fixing something. Oh, here's one more hack for another month. This is fundamentally, how do we take advantage of this and just get back to what we used to do, which was put people to work, not play with KPIs.
Yeah, so that's interesting. Play with KPIs is fun. You do have to have some measurement and some proof of ROI. And that's one of the reasons Jim and I are so passionate about this. We do ultimately all want the same goal, right? We all want to make work better and hiring better. And, obviously we all want to make a living doing what we love as well. And to that end, it's very difficult to prove your differentiating features in a crowded space, especially when hiring budgets are shrinking, right? And so what's going to be one of your key differentiators going forward? And I think that's very possibly, hey, we'll do a better job of advertising your brand and your jobs to your potential audience. And there's going to be a few different ways to do that, right? So yes, Indeed is still the player right now for volume, certainly. But there is going to be a post-Indeed world, right? So it's not the apocalypse, but it's interesting. They want to charge some very specific fees that we need to clarify a little bit. So Jim, why don't you break down a little bit the XML feed policy and what we know about that right now, and then let's talk about the new $25 fee situation.
let me pull up that PDF we had as well, so we can take a look at that because today's thing is I work with Kaniso, which is Kaniso is a staffing software, brand new, built by a guy, built by a former temporary staffing firm owner. So I just wanted to say thank you to Matt and Stephanie. You can see, are they? Am I presenting the right one? No, it's showing it's a little slow on it. Maybe I went too fast. There we go.
This one?
Yeah. They're setting up.
No, I'm doing it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, perfect.
It's okay.
Well, then I want to take a look at that. So that's Matt and Stephanie. If you are a staffing firm and you're looking to change your ATS, like 25% of you are, and you want something that works for sales, service, and marketing, you can see how it's set up. The beauty of this is it's all built by recruiters. It's built the way you work. So much of our software, and this is actually an important lesson for all the tech that we'll talk about. So much of our software is built, and they teach us how to use it. They don't teach us how to use it, do our job, which is why Craig and I have trained literally between us well over 20,000 people, not to use software, but to do our jobs. And that's what Kaniso does so well. So if you're taking a look at an ATS, follow up with Stephanie, follow up with Matt, take a look at the clean lines they have. It's brand new code, so there's no legacy optimization, customization issues. They're very hands-on customer service. So definitely take a look at that because it's one of these new breed of softwares that will make a difference. So let's go back to the slide. Let's pop to this slide 5, maybe. We'll talk about Indeed wants to lead the way. So to understand what happened, there's 2 major changes that have occurred. Yeah, that one. Is that being shown, the full one?
Yeah, let me zoom out a little bit. What'd you give me these 4-3 slides for?
Because I'm an idiot. That's why. Because I've been sick and I lost my graphic designer, and I should have just given it to you last week when these are halfway ready. Here's the correct. So here's the most important thing is the ending of single source feeds, which means if you're working with an agency, you have to understand that Indeed is going to squeeze agencies. They're very clear about it. They're not allowing you to just grab an XML feed from your ATS and send it directly over. So if you're working with programmatic, with Appcast, with Red Dot, with Acquire, with Jovio, they're currently still able to do stuff. This isn't changing today, but they're ending the beginning of single source feeds. So it's harder for you to go pick an agency now. Indeed wants you to come in-house. Your job as a staffing company is to make sure you're talking to them about what needs to be done and understanding your reports. Ultimately, they're going to want to pull everything from your ATS, which is terrifying for us because if we have an ATS, our jobs go up and down. I can do some evergreen posts. I can throw something out there if I'm working for a medical company, a hospital, a tech firm, and leave a job up for 60 days. Sometimes our jobs are up a few days at a time, or I don't need 300 candidates, or we're smart with our budgets. So the way that staffing use Indeed, this is a huge challenge for us because Indeed usually works with a bunch of jobs left for a long period of time. That's what they're looking for. When you're smart about it, when you're careful with your money, when you're not wasting budget, this becomes a real challenge because you have to manage it from your dashboard. And all of your recruiters are focused on putting people to work. They're not focused on having clean data go to your programmatic sources. So the single source feeds is already gone. So you're not going to be able to add an agency now, but you need to start being aware of how your ATS, of how whatever you're sending over, whether it's you're using something like a Chatter or whether you're just a basic CRM or whether they're scraping your career site because you're using it from somebody else, you have to understand how your data comes across because it's like a tariff system, Craig. Yeah. Indeed's got a series of tariffs. There's this thing called job score that's in there, and it depends on, are you integrated? Are you set up? I mean, there's a bunch of stuff that's in there that you have to figure out. It's the same thing as Google PageRank was. It's the same issue from there, right? So this is where it gets hard. It depends on the size. If you're a small company, you're trying to figure out how to post your jobs to Indeed. If you're a larger one, like one of the larger clients we've seen before, you may have 15 different places that are struggling. And are you one company or 15? So you need to be asking your agency if you're doing this and talking to your people from Indeed, and their answers are probably not going to be so great. But that's not the scary thing for us. Long term, yes, that's 6 months to a year from now. They want disposition sync. They want everything coming from your ATS. But the $25 budget's the bigger one. Now,
Yeah.
this is different. There was a $25 budget last year. So every campaign requires $25 a month per budget per job. So if you have 100 jobs, you need $2,500. But if you pulled your jobs up and set them down, like a parking lot, you could pull them in and out. That was fine as long as the overall budget matched the overall jobs. That was the important part. Now it's every new job. So if you put 100 jobs up, you pull 50 of them down and put 50 more back up. It's not 2,500. Now you need 3,750. Now imagine it over dozens and dozens of locations. That's the bigger issue. And that changes the way some of the staffing firms, other people we've talked to, it looks like a 3 to 4 times the spend on Indeed that they were making. That's ruinous. There's no way that you can do that. So that got pushed back to August 8th. But we don't know when that's coming, but that means you have to start preparing for it. And oh, by the way, you can't just say this isn't fair. Why is Indeed doing that? You know, the bigger question for you has to be, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to let them do it? And remember, this is a company that used you to build their database, same way Monster did, same way LinkedIn did, and then turned around and charged you for the very candidates that you put in there. So this is our challenge. This is our fix. If you're going to use them, you have to figure out the correct way to use them. And if not, you have to figure out what you're planning on the other side. Is that clear enough?
I think it's clear enough. So let's discuss that. What do you mean by figuring out the correct way to use them? What are the immediate impacts for staffing firms and job visibility?
Right. So the way you do recruitment marketing. So let's just pick 2 different scenarios. If you're individually posting your jobs and you're posting them inside the Indeed platform, if your recruiter is going in and posting jobs, you have to know how to post that job to get the maximum visibility, which means you have to know how to post jobs, which means you have to understand the UI. Are you doing it monthly? Are you doing it on a set budget? What does your title look like? There's all these things that you have to know to do to get the best results back from it. Are you using your titles correctly? Is your job description robust enough? One of the things that people don't realize is if you have a very thin job description, it's going to give you terrible candidates. Excuse me. And that's a normal thing. Like, I think it would drive people crazy to find out 50% of your candidates are bad. Well, it's because of your job descriptions and titles. Or maybe you're from an industry that they have terrible resumes. If they have terrible resumes and it's just a few lines, there's no way for the AI to go through and match those. So you have to know for your industry and for your jobs. With staffing firms, we have so many different kinds of jobs. How are you posting that individually? So that's the individual posters. And that tends to be, that's very hard to teach because every person who posts your job has to know what they're doing. And quite frankly, that's just a scale problem, which is why you turn to templates.
Yeah, let's talk about that real quick before we get to templates. It's very much like sourcing. If you pay a sourcer, or if you've ever paid an outsourced sourcing firm and you give them a job description and they send you candidates based on that job description, and you say, no, we need candidates with this, and this. Okay, why did you pay them to use the stupid job description that you gave them in the first place? Indeed's going to do the exact same thing. It does contextual matching. And so if you don't have enough context in your job description and title, you're not going to get the right candidates.
Exactly. That's
All right.
exactly what it is.
And so then the template is a problem.
Right. But we can fix that. We have the ability to fix that because we can give you your basic templates. And it's not, the problem is the managers have to know too. And right now we're so decentralized. So this is a matter of getting a hold of your spend. I mean, the number of times we've seen people do that. I love that Amber's going truth nuggets happening. I'm not sure what the truth nugget is, but it sounds good.
Yeah, we got lots of them.
So the second thing is if you're a larger firm, right? If you're a larger firm putting lots of jobs out, or they're doing evergreen, something like that. The challenge is you have to learn, there's like 4 levers you can pull. Now this gets deep into the tech, so we won't go too far into it, but you got to learn to segment your campaigns. So you're trying to decide, I'm going to put all my campaign in one. Am I segmenting them by title? Am I segmenting them by budget, by difficulty? So here's a perfect example. I want to hire RN somewhere. And I know that I have no problem hiring them in Atlanta or Chicago. So I put all those together as a low priority because they're getting plenty of candidates, but I'm not getting them in Janesville, Wisconsin, and I'm not getting them in Boise, Idaho. So normally you'd go, oh, let's put a priority campaign together just for the hard to fill roles in these rural or smaller places. And we'll put extra budget on that budget on as a priority. That sounds like a pretty good idea, doesn't it, Craig? I mean, logically, it makes sense.
That's what we used to do.
And what happens when you do that now? You spend a bunch of money and you don't get jack.
That's right.
Because it doesn't work that way anymore. So the part of the problem is this is a fight. Auctions and advertising is a fight. You constantly have to go through and figure out what's working and not working. I run audits. I check campaigns. And sometimes I listen to Indeed and sometimes I don't. Here's a little nugget that people didn't realize. Your smart sourcing resume licenses, they're now connected to the advertising platform, which means how your recruiters use that resume impacts your advertising because it's the same smart brain. Think about that. You literally could be costing yourself money because you never trained your people to use Indeed resume correctly, or because they're all over the place, which means it's literally giving you bad candidates because you didn't realize those things were connected.
Yeah, your actions, whether you dispositioned someone properly or reached out to them or communicated in a timely way, Indeed's going to show your ads to people based on your activity and your recruiter's activity. And that's a terrible thing if you're not consistent in the way you approach candidates on a regular basis.
Yeah, so it's just being thoughtful. And that's the hardest part because we're putting it in. So, people, why are they doing this? Well, because the biggest issue is quality. Let's pop over the oversaturation. Let's go down one or two. Because I think this is the other thing that people are seeing. A lot of times, this is a crazy stat. Remember that joke? Well, I know you joke. I told you about a prospect that told me 1 out of 4 candidates they got from LinkedIn they hired. And I laughed. I said, no, you didn't. And he goes, no, it's true. It happened. I'm like, no, it's not. And he pulls up his ATS and he pulls up his source code and he goes, look, this is how many candidates I brought in from LinkedIn. And 1 out of 4 of them got hired. I was like, I know that you think that that's the case. This is the problem with reporting, but there's no way that that's the case because we all know 95% of stuff coming from LinkedIn is pure garbage because it's so easy to automate, to click, to go through. It's not even close. And, well, the problem is then you go and you buy a 3-year multi-year contract, you integrate, and all of a sudden you have thousands of candidates pouring in and they're just terrible. And now you're overwhelmed. LinkedIn reports that itself. They get 11,000 applications a minute and 99% of them aren't accurate. That's their own words, 1 in 200. I don't know why they'd necessarily put that out, but they're seeing they paid out. And what happens is we have trained candidates to not care. Let's go blue. They don't give a shit. And why should they? We have constantly tried to change what we're doing, an internal TA division, to make things easier for us. We created assessments so they could filter. We want to screen people out. This is very positive for the staffing world because what's happened is the whole point of the talent acquisition department when it started was they took a bunch of people from staffing firms. They brought them inside because they were getting sued because they weren't treating people correctly. We don't care as staffing firms if we make 95% of the people in the world angry if replacing the 5%. Because our job is to find good people. It's not to make someone feel better. So there's our basic advantage that we've had since the beginning of staffing is that our job is to get people to work, not make you feel better. That's huge for us because this is what the TA departments are finding right now. They're reporting between 50 and 250% more applications, most of them bad. You got Easy Buy, you got Quick Apply. In the software world, you have fake resumes, but you also have fake people. Candidates.
You also have fake jobs.
Questions. And the fake jobs is the thing that they're figuring out right now. All those perm jobs that the H-1Bs that are dropping. And
Job
they're literally putting
everywhere.
Stuff in the newspaper.
Right.
Oh, and the scams?
Yeah.
It's terrible. I mean, very talented people are getting caught up with those. I know a young lady who's looking for a job right now, and it's like half the jobs are cattle calls, which scares me because that's basically career builder level nonsense. Where they're like, let's get together, let's chat, just keep your business options. So it's multi-level marketing. It's 30 people on a cattle call. You have to understand what these job seekers are going through and the impact on TA, because the only solution that's not really difficult and requires you and I to go in there one at a time and fix these companies is staffing firms, because you have something that nobody else has. You have a database of people you've talked to, they're real. Everybody before 2024 should be suspect, but everybody in your database before that, they're probably real. You've talked to them, and that is a huge advantage, because companies are so tired of being ghosted. Not just like not showing up for interviews. People are taking jobs, getting background checks, signing offers, and not showing up the first day. And the problem is something called the law of large numbers. This is one of the challenges that Indeed can't fix. If I don't have to talk to somebody, if I can do an automated hiring process and get a job at Walmart, which you can do, you can show up on day one and never talk to a human being.
That's right.
What happens when
they encourage it?
They encourage it. That's actually the pitch for a lot, not just high volume, but now it's moving further and further up the chain.
Yeah.
What happens when my manager looks at me funny one day? I'm out of here. You know why? Because I pop onto Indeed and I have another job that doesn't pay a lot, does the same thing 5 minutes later. So that's a huge problem. And companies know this, but they've cut their budgets. They've overwhelmed it. They're cutting the recruiters that are in place. They're so focused on cost cutting, it doesn't occur to them that they're building a workforce of people who've learned that why care if I can get a job? That frictionless hiring is a terrible idea. Again, that's golden right. moment for headhunters. Your people will last longer. You'll know that they're real. They'll show up for the interview. They'll show up for the first day, and they'll work better because they feel like they got ahead.
And this is your pitch. Advantage. Yeah, this is your pitch to employers, right? You're basically the blockchain link to real candidates who you manage in a way that they show up. And employers can't do that right now. They can't do that themselves. They can't guarantee that people are real that are applying, and they certainly can't guarantee that they'll show up for interviews or work.
I mean, we can barely do it, but at least we talk to them. And it doesn't matter if it's temporary staffing or software engineering, by the way. Yeah. There are deep psychological principles of why what we do matters. And the answer is that people want to feel like they have progress, and it's focused on this idea of intent, right? If I just apply to 1,000 jobs, two bad things happen. One, if I'm rejected by all those because of AI screening, I mean, it's one thing to get rejected for a few jobs, but if you have 1,000 and you don't get a single interview, you're messed up in the head. You're not prepared for that level of rejection. I mean, you're the 40-year-old virgin. It was on last night. I was watching it. But you just give up after a while. And that's what we're seeing. Pop down to the job seeker experience slide, because I think that's an important one too. Even the Mo Money More. Yeah, that one there. So there's real anger. Look, they've always been mad at us. People are always mad because the only time anyone likes a recruiter is when they get a job. That's it. That's the only time anybody cares about us. And that's okay. Now they're angry at everybody, though. They think the whole system's rigged. This whole thing of these ghost jobs that are flying around, like every company's just posting fake stuff. I know some of them are out there, but I've seen people claim 45% of posted jobs are fake. It's ridiculous. Who has the time to fake that out? Unless it's an AI interview, which costs you nothing. They can post a job, do the interview, and what are they doing? Gathering training data. So job seekers in revolt over this. There's real anger on this, and everything's a focus on speed. But time and time again, it's not how fast it is. Oh, I don't want to waste my time. But that's not true. Craig, I have a job offer for you. It's a tough one. You're going to have to work an hour a week. You just need to listen to questions for 50 minutes and talk for 10 minutes. It's going to pay you $3 million a year, but you're going to have to fill out a 45-minute workday application, and you're guaranteed an interview. What do you think? You're going to tell you screw me because that's too long to put out, or you think that's a possibility for you?
I don't know. Are you trying to take me off platform for me to send you my details?
Well, it's a real job. Well, it's not a real job, but the whole point is everyone's like, oh, it's got to be fast. No, it doesn't. It has to matter. It has to matter. It's not about just speed, because speed it's that frictionless hiring bit. It has to matter. Why do they like us when they talk to us as headhunters? Because they feel like there's a sense of progress and someone's on their side.
Progress.
There's no sense in the automated system of what any of that is.
No, some friction means that there needs to be a person in the process. If a candidate is able to just slide through a process without ever interacting with a person, they don't believe it's real. That's why they don't show up, or why they don't complete the application.
Exactly. That's exactly what it comes down to. And why would they? Because half the time it isn't.
That's
It's
right.
not even on purpose. It's that automated things break. And what we're seeing with, so everybody, they just launched ChatGPT 5. Everybody's excited about it. And it broke a bunch of processes. It changed things. Thank God I didn't spend all that time building those UIs for it, because it's
Right.
different. And it still works great, but it's not replacing you anytime soon.
It doesn't work that great.
I mean, you got to relearn how to use it each time. It's no different from the Facebook pages, which you can make a lot of money being the person who makes Facebook pages back in 2009. Remember Buddy Media and how much they did, because it changed every week. Never made any money for any company except for Buddy. But that's the issue we have now, is everyone gets excited about that. They think they're going to replace us. This whole automated recruiting thing, it cracks me up because it's a demo. And let's just talk about the automation for a second. Look, I love the automation. There's a bunch of cool companies out there like Earn Better and Daxtra and Maca and others that I think are doing good jobs. But they have to be something different. Why don't you pop down to that slide 13 real quick, and let's talk about some of the changes we can see.
Is this the one?
One more, I think. Two more. Yeah, because we already covered those. So here's the big thing, right? There's 4 things that we can do. I think the most important is you got to figure out what your job board and Indeed strategy is, because they're all stuck in 2021. You know what I mean when I say that? They're stuck in 2021. That basically they made bank. Everybody went remote. We hired more recruiters than we hired software engineers. Yeah. So everybody wants to get back to that high point, not remembering that it was all based on printed money, which is why inflation's so high right now. Everyone was scared. They didn't know what to do. HR had to hire all these people. They had to completely change everything. Really went to prove that we're capable of doing more than they suggested before. But they're obsessed with getting back to that, which means that every job board is currently trying to jack up their prices. They're focused on quality. If you need more, you're in for a very bad ride. You've got to figure out how your job boards work and what level. So we did a study once where they compared Indeed and ZipRecruiter. And I've seen a bunch of these. And the problem is they did these studies wrong, but ZipRecruiter candidates had higher retention rates than Indeed candidates. The problem is that's really easy to figure. And the solution was, go bring more people from ZipRecruiter. The problem is literally that's called the law of large numbers. 90% of our candidates were coming from Indeed and 10 were coming from Zip. And we can't get more from Zip because it wasn't big in us, because Indeed is 30 times the size of Zip. So what they were really saying was, as I'm telling you before, it's so easy to get a new job that people would quit and get a new job. And as long as you were using Indeed for customer service reps, that will continue happening. And yet that kind of study, then they bring on, and they start talking about software engineers and business analysts and warehouse workers. And it's totally separate. It was online customer service reps. The challenge you're going to have is, if I need 20% of my people from Indeed and 5% from Zip, where am I getting the rest? So stop thinking they will solve your problems. There is no easy button. There is no giant supply of candidates. We're in a workforce shortage, and we're lucky. In the U.S., it's not as bad as it is other places. Mm-hmm. A lot of it's just process being cleared out, and a lot of not fake news, but a lot of mistakes. You know, a lot of people assuming something is like it was in 2015 or 2008. We're still hearing managers talk about refreshing jobs, which hasn't been a thing in 15 years. Mm-hmm. So we've got to understand what's going on with these so we can explain it to the CFO to say, here's my budget is. And the best thing that your budget from an internal standpoint is making it fungible. If I cut 30% of my Indeed spend, that doesn't go back to the company. It goes into the harder to fill stuff. It goes into my sourcing roles. It goes into paying my people more. So we're taking care of them. It's not just a cost cutting manage. That's the challenge. Ours, Amber points out, build your own database. That's the exciting thing. You have a database. Imagine using something like an Earn Better or a Daxtra, where you're sending a note, an AI interview to somebody. This is what Earn Better does. They've got this thing called Fast Track. You can send something directly out of your database to them, and they will interview and talk to that person. But here's the thing. They're trying to get information and figure out if they're useful, right? Do you have a license? Do you have this certification? Do you have this much experience? Pretty basic screening. Almost all the AI screeners do it. The difference is that you can interrupt and ask, how much does it pay? It doesn't lose that. It tells you what's the shift, what's the management like. It gives information on both sides. The beauty of that is that's so much cheaper. That's pennies to do. versus you're using Indeed and ZipRecruiter and Talroo and all these other places to get candidates you already have in your database. It's just they clicked on it, which showed you the intent. So you're paying for Indeed to figure out the intent of what's something already in your database.
So here's the issue with that, Jim, right? It's Indeed and other job boards, including LinkedIn, are basically CRMs with an open community, right? That's what they are. You've got a CRM with a closed, contained, and vetted community. You already have that. That exists. Okay. So refreshing the data might be worth doing. And there are plenty of tools that can do that. Send me a note. I'll give you a list. And yeah, you really do already have your own database. So what are you going to do with it? How are you going to contact these people in a way that feels real and not just like an advertisement?
That is the key. Feels real.
Mm-hmm.
In the old days, what would we do? We'd blast off 3,000 emails. Oh, I got a job. We pull everybody. I'm gonna mass. Worst thing we ever did was teach recruiters to mass email. I'm gonna drop 1,000 people, and hopefully we dropped it into BCC. Right? I'm gonna mass 1,000 people. But what happens when I get that same job 2 weeks later? Your recruiter mass emails the same 1,000 people. After a while, they just turn numb to it. So the question is, how do you make that real? This is the other problem we have with AI sourcing. The demos are great. I mean, we've seen a number of them out there. They're actually pretty impressive, where you can just say, go find me an Apple store employees in London. It'll pull them up. It'll call them. It'll vet them. It'll set them up for interviews. That's amazing. Oh, my God, we should quit. What happens in the second month? It's the stocked pond idea. It's why recruiters really are going to be the last ones off the boat if AI takes all of our jobs in the next couple of decades. The reason is that there's a cadence to it. It's the same problem we have with business development. If I go out and I call 500 people with an automated message, I can't call them the next day with the same message. I get this right now. I got to tell you, man, I'm about to murder about half. I will never again ask for business funding. I get 5 freaking phone calls a day. There's no way to stop it. You can't
at least
you can't block it. Oh,
no.
2 years ago, I made the mistake of 2 years ago, just looking into business financing to launch Respondable. And I hate it so much. It's made my phone unusable. It's like at least car insurance drops off after 3 to 6 months. These guys aren't ever giving up because AI doesn't care. And that's what they're selling. And if you do that with your candidates, you will burn through them. It's just the sorcerer's apprentice. So how do you make it real? You've got to plan out a slow, stable, steady. You've got to think of it like fishing in a stocked pond. What are you offering to them? Are they re-answering the same question? If I call you and I ask you a bunch of stuff about your business to sell you, and the next day I send another one and then another one, you're going to, not only you're going to be as angry as I am about these guys. I would never do business financing with any company online ever again, because there's just no way that I trust them, because it's clear that they don't care about anything. How do you prevent that with recruiting? Well, staffing people are literally the best. This is literally what we do. Not the ones who went inside and they're just working and they call themselves recruiters. But if you're out there killing what you eat, if you're out there, you got to realize that you have something nobody else does, which is that you introduce candidates to hiring managers, judge intent, you judge realness, and you're a conduit for them. We've got to get back to focusing on that. It's exactly, well, Amber, honestly, we should have brought her on to talk about this, because she's crushing us. Rapport, trust, value to her audience, quality from both sides. I mean, we should just read her stuff and call it a day.
I know we're going to have a meeting with Amber later.
Yeah, we definitely, because she gets it. She gets it. And that's what it is. It's not back to the basics. That's not it, because there's new tech you have to use. And let's talk about that. But it is understanding your fundamental value, which is you don't get paid. No one gets paid until somebody goes to work. All the KPIs in the world, all the automation in the world means nothing until somebody goes to work. And we're the closest to it. We are the closest to the money.
Do you want to talk real quick? You want to talk real quick about the challenges for the ATS for staffing firms? I was
going to have you do that if you want to.
Well, go ahead and get started. Look, we got John Markey here commenting in.
Oh, yeah. This is important from the job seeker standpoint. We were talking about this. You guys don't realize it's not just the cattle calls and others. It's people getting bank details. I mean, some of them are the old scams. 2 years ago, it was the old scams where they'd say, oh, we're going to send you a computer. Oh my God, this didn't work. Here, use this card, go to the Apple store, buy a computer. Oh, and we'll send you the details. Oh, you know what? There's an overage. And then want you to send like Apple gift cards or something like that. Those are relatively easy. People still fall for them. Now, my God, I got one the other day that was asking me for an RFP. When I signed in, it went to my Google details and we were able to get, the whole thing was fake. I have another guy, you know, Mark Hopkins. Mark is pretty sophisticated technically. He gets on an interview on a Teams call. Now, I don't think there's anybody on this call that wouldn't look at a Teams call and go, that's pretty safe. They ask him to step away from the computer because that's what people are doing now. Like put your hand in front of your face. They ask him to step away and get a different shirt. He begins to step away, looks down in the corner. His start menu starts and he jumps over and cancels it. A Teams interview call with a real company, a real website. It looked real. They were trying to access his system, get his bank and crypto details.
Yeah.
That's because if Mark can fall for some of those things,
that's right.
He's obsessive about security. If I can make that mistake, and I'm very compartmentalized about those things, the average job seeker is just lost in those. And that's our question is how do we regain that trust? By talking to headhunters.
That's right. So, you know, as a person, when you have been contacted by a real headhunter most of the time, right? And there are ways to tell. And we in the business, you know, we do Google image searches, we do all these arcane things to vet out if someone's an actual person using a real photo and, you know, all these things. So your individual profiles are going to matter as much now as they ever have, if not more. You've got to be extremely legit looking. And that's a big trick. Now, the other thing is what we were going to talk about, the potholes that you're going to encounter with your ATS data being clean. So what we do now in staffing has been, we advertise jobs. We don't advertise them as our customer. We advertise them as ourselves, right? But we do sometimes spin up a new feed or a new campaign for a specific customer. Depends on how your CRM is situated or your ATS is situated. But since Indeed's not going to allow new XML feeds, you're going to have to figure out a way to either ensure that your legacy XML feed is able to take on as many new roles as you want, or you're going to have to find a way to make sure your ATS data is very clean coming out. That means wages are accurate, titles, descriptions have full context, and your job schema is clean and clear. How do you look at that? Well, Jim and I do an audit for that. If you want us to look at it, we will. And we're glad to do a free consult about that with any of you. But it's going to become real apparent real soon that original ATS data is going to be of paramount importance, because what goes into your ATS isn't exactly what goes out to job boards right now, right? There's some intervening code around it that cleans it up, makes it look good, and makes it friendly. But that's not going to be accepted, at least by Indeed, in the near future. We're talking within 1 year. We think
even faster than that too.
Yeah.
And here's the thing too. It's not just Indeed. This is not an Indeed centric thing. Indeed is forcing this. And I know a lot of people are angry about it. The question is, why should we allow them? But aren't they accurate? Because it's not just Indeed and it's not just job boards. It's Google for Jobs. It's your career site. It's
That's
the
right.
new, I mean, people are going to chat and asking very soon. You'll be able to apply for jobs from inside any of these little AI tools, the basic ones, and how they depict your information impacts you. So companies are getting sued right now because they misposted their salary information. You know how they figured it out? Lawyers used AI. They used people. Some of the tools that we use to do deep research on companies, they're absolutely going and searching it. So how you post that job can land you in a class action lawsuit. And oh, by the way, don't think as a staffing firm that you're not partly responsible. Many of you are posting jobs as the client, especially if anybody's on RPO on that, it's the same issues. if Mobley and Workday, which is an ATS vendor that's out there, and that Sirius got sued, these class actions, they don't just, the problem is they're lined up like a chute. So don't think that a judge may not think that you're responsible for this. At the very least, you're stuck in litigation. Or worse, 50% of the country right now has salary transparency. It rules. That's not a class action. That's not litigation. That's not 1 in a million chance of you getting sued. Those are administrative fines.
That's
That
right.
means one day you post a bunch of jobs in New Jersey, and the next day you get a fine for $6,000. That's like traffic court. You're not going to argue against it. You pay it or don't pay it. So those are the kinds of things we have to be aware of. And this is why it's so important that you have a clean. And by the way, this isn't difficult. What's difficult is making sure your people are doing it, is understanding what's the correct way to do it. How do you maintain it over time? This eventually becomes a 20-hour week role for all your jobs, depending on your size. But you have to do it right. You can't just count on your recruiters to do it. So
James has an interesting question. What he means here is, why do some jobs on Indeed not show up on company websites? That's because not all jobs on Indeed are scraped. So, right, you can go put a specific job on Indeed that may or may not be on a company website somewhere if you're sending the candidate to a different apply process than directly to the ATS.
And it could be something as simple as they didn't click the right button. A lot of the ATSs have a publish to the web button, and then they have an advertising job posting one. So if you've got a brand new person who's 19 that you hired because they're your cousin and you're just doing a little work because you don't want to pay for somebody good, and they don't know how to use your ATS, or there's an upgrade you didn't know about, or there's just something that you weren't aware of, you could be sending those jobs out. And by the way, costing yourself a lot of money doing so. And the answer is, we need to look at your ATS and find out. The dirty secret that Craig and I had years ago, we were working with a client, and it was so funny. I told him about this, and he goes, "That's crazy." And then he sat down with it. How long did it take you? It took him 3 minutes to identify a problem that was, they were charging $35 per candidate, and we got it down to what, 70 cents? Literally, because of the way they were posting and there's no way for you to know that until you do the deep dive. All he had to do was actually, instead of just taking someone's word for it, who's doing the work?
I shadowed a recruiter.
Give me full access to your system so I actually know what's going on. Make sure you've got the right. I mean, I've seen ATSs where the radius search isn't turned on because somebody forgot to. Literally, it's because that's not something we've ever had to deal with before. And we get mad about it, but we've got to learn our own technology. It's about doing it right and doing it simply. Not automation, just any automation requires is a good process. We all know this because this is how we do interviews. You know, this many interviews, this many submittals, this many hires. If you do those wrong, it's not about the number. We all know the guy who does 500 interviews, no submittals and no hires. Well, there's something off there. It's the same process with your tech. What's not occurring that should be occurring? You have to deep look into your process. And this is an advantage you have over internal departments because they don't have the time, the resources, or I want to say courage isn't the right, the grit. You guys can pivot on a dime. You can test it between branches to see what happens. Because it's not always just about, oh, there's one way to do it and you're doing wrong, because each of you does it differently. Each of you has different kinds of clients. So the real question is do you know exactly what you're doing? Have you written it down, and does it work with your tech? Once you get it correct, now you bought yourself a year of fantastic results. And we're talking big results here, Craig. The number of times we have cut budgets 90% or grown revenue 300 or 400%. It's not simple. It's doable, simply because everybody else is doing the same thing and you're pivoting in a slightly different direction.
Well, yeah, you really got to know what you're looking for. And here's the thing. Do you all know that anyone can create an XML feed from your career site? Anyone can. It's very simple. There's Chrome widgets that can do it. No big deal. And so what's in your ATS and going out to your career site is being used by nefarious actors and just various companies trying to make a buck, and Google, right? And also Indeed. And very often companies will be posting your stuff to LinkedIn without you even knowing it, and Meta. And so understanding what exactly is happening, not just saying, well, we post these jobs to LinkedIn and we spend about $60 a week for this store in Saskatchewan. And we get pretty good results. That's crazy. What you find when you do a little bit of a deep dive and really test the ROI of what you're doing is that there's a whole lot of issues going on there, and you could be spending a fraction of that money and getting better results. And we see it all the time. So, we'll be there for you if you need us to help you understand what to look for. And then we'll teach somebody on your team to understand how to do it going forward if you need, some kind of audit like that. And that's sort of one of the most gratifying things that Jim and I get to do is, all right, we discovered this, and this. Here you go. We'll teach somebody on your team how to maintain this from here on out.
It's a nice place to be. Let's talk about diversified. Well, see, so Peter says ATS processing is garbage.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is, Peter? I mean, look at all the money that's been paid into that. Something is off there. It shouldn't be. It's not that hard to sort. Why? It's because instead of doing our jobs internally, we just let a vendor who's never worked in the industry come and fix it. Or they need 30 different customizations that are in place. Not all ATS processing is garbage. And every system's different. How many times have you worked on a Taleo or an Avature or a Workday and been shocked at how different they are? I mean, same software, right? So is it good or is it bad? Well, it depends on how it was set up and who's doing the work. And everybody complains about it.
The problem with that is whoever set it up in the first place isn't there anymore. They've moved on, and the customization team from the ATS, they're not in their spot anymore. And the onboarding team that you have and your customer service team, they've all turned over. And so whoever put these things together in the first place, they're not doing that job anymore, and you're stuck with it 3 years later based on somebody else's vision.
You have a close friend and client who went through this. They lost all of their jobs for several weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened is they had a different tech stack. And there was somebody who didn't have the right password to the API. That person left. It'd been 2 years. When they updated, that password didn't work. The vendors couldn't figure it out. The agency couldn't figure it out. The company couldn't figure it out, because who assumes this one little piece here was causing the problem? Right. That's the kind of dangerous stuff you have in your tech stack. I mean, and that's to not have candidates for 2 weeks when you're a staffing firm. That's pretty terrifying. The only good news is your budgets look good the next month, but that's a whole different story. Look, our costs went down. We hired the same. Yeah, that's a different thing entirely. Let's talk about diversify, source by intent, screening in candidates, because we're not going to have time to go through and show you all the great tech. Craig's been doing this for years, showing you good companies, good techs. Shout out to TalentNet Live, which is going to be November this year.
November 7th, go to talentnetlive.com. Come join me and Jim. It's going to be at Caliber Collision headquarters in Louisville, Texas. That's right.
Yep. And it's fantastic, because what happens is you can walk through the different tech to help what you need. So when I say diversify, source by intent, let's go for the easy one. Facebook and Meta. I don't know how, Craig, because I left it years ago, and now that I'm back, I'm still shocked at the number of candidates that are coming. But they're back on. It's young people too. They're back on Facebook Marketplace. They're on Facebook Dating. Somehow Meta has risen from the ashes and went from just total garbage to once again being a really good source of candidates. But social media candidates are not job board candidates. And that's what we mean by sourcing by intent.
Mm-hmm.
So sourcing by intent is if I'm on Indeed and I apply for a job to work with TalentNet Media, Craig's got a pretty decent shot of me actually wanting to interview. At the very least, I'm looking. He may have to convince me, but he knows that I'm looking for a job and I'm interested in his company. That is intent. That's why we continue to use job boards. If you go to your database, you don't know if I'm looking or not. I might be open, but I might be wasting your time too, or I might demand a 50% increase. So when you're using different sources outside of job boards, which will still have a value, social is totally different. It's like interruption marketing. You pop up, you see an ad, and you go, I guess I could do that. But now I don't have the job description. So I have to be coddled and put in a different place. That's where AI and automation works great, because it allows me to talk through it and say, are you interested? Are you interested? No, really, are you interested? And lets you ask questions. I only want to work shifts. I just need a nighttime job at UPS. I only want to work shifts 10 p.m. to 4 a.m., 4 nights a week. I don't have to get on an interview and talk to someone and go through 45 minutes for that nonsense. I can just do that with the AI. And then when I get the chance, then I talk to somebody. What's crazy is we'll talk to these filters, and then when we talk to a recruiter, they don't have any of that access. So why would I go through a screening and then repeat myself to Craig when somebody else gives me exactly what I want? So diversify, source by intent means understanding how to use social media, understanding how to use basic Google ads that are in place. Even something like, you remember you did that digital board? And then weren't you looking at menus? It doesn't matter what you're using. What do those people want? Can you give it to them beforehand? So this is how Paradox does so well. They're texting people. So if you're driving through the line at McDonald's in a few minutes, you can actually text a number and schedule an interview with a manager. That's not truly AI. It's just texting, but it gets me right where I am, gives me the information, it gives me an ending that I know. So we tend to look at job boards like, we're going to gather a bunch of people, we're going to sort and sift them. That's a 1980s mentality. Gather as many people I want, sort and sift them, and then I'll call them at my leisure. Well, if you've ever worked with someone like Vivian, sorry to cut you off there, Vivian actually judges you by how fast you respond. So does Indeed. If your people are responding on Indeed correctly, you pay less. If your people aren't responding on Vivian, they kick you off the program, because they want this to be a good candidate feedback experience. And it's the same way for the candidates too. If they'll eventually get to a point where if they apply to 40 jobs, they're going to stop letting them apply. It's not going to happen anytime soon. But that would be great, because then what if you could only apply to 5 jobs a day? How much better would that be for you? Not just for your mental health, but actually getting there. And that's what we talk about when we say diversify, source by intent. And then the screening in that's just showing basic respect, especially for high volume roles or others. It's like the salary transparency. I hate that everybody wants to publish the range. I think that's dumb as hell. I think it's a bad thing to do, but it should be in every conversation. And if you ask, I should give it to you. So we're not wasting our time for sure. The problem is somehow, remember we sat there one night, we talked about it, and somebody got mad that I brought up salary should be in the first conversation and every conversation, because I'm a headhunter.
That's right.
I'm not afraid to ask. And
close early and often. That's right.
How do you not know that?
Yeah.
Well, that's where the automation can be good for. So screening in a candidate, instead of saying, I'm going to pay for 1,000 candidates, sort them down to 15 and try to convince them, oh, it didn't work out, I got to go back and score another 1,000. How about I find the ones that want to do it and instead spend more money trying to get those 15 to the interview process? It could be the exact same amount or cheaper, but at least I'm not wasting time with 985 people that have no interest and intent, don't even know if they want the job, and we can't spend 45 minutes finding out if they want it.
And please don't complain about whatever platform you're using if you're trying to screen in candidates in this way, but they're not meeting your criteria of wanting to pay them $65K for 8 to 10 plus years experience. That's on you. Or your customer.
That will change a lot of things.
Yeah. That
will change a lot of things. It's 12:53. Why don't we show the ATS visibility, show a quick Kaniso, and then have some closing. Let's real quick drop your, it's in there. So this is what Craig and I came up with after. A lot of this is targeted at the internal TA folks, but the more we're looking at it, I got to tell you guys, the reason we even decided to do it with staffing is we just feel that you're better suited to take advantage of it. You don't have all the process problems, and more important, you can say no to managers. I was working with a client, and they needed, at the last second, they needed like 300 people candidates, because they needed like 80 people to show up at an event. And it was like Friday at 4:30. And so I did it. It cost me an amazing amount of money. 3 weeks later, I get another call that they needed again. I was like, I don't understand. This is a small place. It was outside Cincinnati. This is a rural Amazon warehouse. I was like, what do you mean you need another 300 candidates in this rural area? And so instead of just doing it, just like we've done, because we've seen all these accounts, I called the guy up and said, what's going on? He goes, oh, it's terrible. We have a 300% turnover problem. Like, you ever been out to the account? He goes, no, it's corporate sales. I was like, do me a favor. Can you drive out there? No one had ever thought to do this before. Can you drive out there and just see what's going on? Turns out they had no air conditioning, so they turned off almost all the lights. They only had 1 out of 4 lights on, no air conditioning in the middle of summer. So they're sweltering, working in the dark. And the worst part is as you drive out of the location, there's a big sign that said, FedEx pays $22 an hour and has benefits on the first day. I didn't fill 1 warehouse. I filled 2. You can't fix that with technology and more candidates and better recruiting. That's the kind of thing that you have to go and understand what's occurring. But the only reason we knew that was occurring is because I knew that ATS down. I knew everything about it. I knew what needed to be done. And it was clear this was not a tech problem. This was not an advertising problem. This is a process problem, and it had to be solved. So when you're looking for this kind of stuff, to me, this is what makes it exciting. You can say no. They stopped working on that account for obvious reasons, and they put their money and time towards what was closest to the money. That's what's exciting for you guys. So, I mean, it's just the big thing is ATS. Just go to TalentNet Live.
Yeah.
Our Talent,
You'll find it.
Talent Media. Yeah, Talent Time. Look at the top. If you want to take a look at that, if you want us to take a look at some of your audits, we're happy to do so. If you need something long-term, we can talk about what that looks like. But again, this is not just about Indeed. It's about Indeed for the moment. Indeed will pay for it, the budget and the money spent and the new revenue. But long-term, in the next year, you're going to have to learn how to do this yourself, no matter what system that you have. But the payoffs are enormous. The payoffs are enormous because you finally know what you're working on, what you're not working on, what's working. It's no different from the days when we used to get points. They still do that. You get points for a letter, points for an email, and they'd argue whether an email was a call. That's how old I am. We put points into our ATS.
No, they don't do that.
Handwritten note, that's worth 5 points. I need 300 points for the week or I don't get my bonus.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. We love that stuff. We miss this kind of stuff. Real quick, we pop to the Kaniso again, real quick, so we've mentioned for them. Again, if you're looking for staffing software, temp staffing software, executive headhunting, that's what it is. You can see how clean it is. And the big difference is the 360 view. Your recruiters know what they're working on. Your account managers know what they're working on. Management does. So it puts all 3 of those together. So it's 360-degree view of what you're working on. It's clean, it's easy, and most important, it's brand new code. And as we all know, the newest code is the best code. So if you have interest, just follow up with Matt or with Stephanie, or just reach out to me and we'll kind of chat from there.
And thank you, Kaniso, for sponsoring this.
We do appreciate that. Yes.
Yep. We will send these slides out to everyone. You'll have access to this presentation. It'll be here forever, right? So you'll see it, but we'll send the link again just to make sure that you can easily access it. And if you have direct questions, just feel free to ping Jim or I, and we're here to answer all those questions. We're constantly gathering information and data from all the conversations around this Indeed business. And, we'd love to help you get your ATS situation cleaned up, whatever it is.
We'd like for you to make a lot more money.
Does Kaniso have a minimum number of seats?
No.
Yeah, they're small. Yeah, no, Kaniso is great for a small business like yours.
Yeah, well, Noel's one of the clients for them and also investors. Yeah. So Noel actually runs Dynamic Global, and he uses Kaniso for his sales, service, and marketing and his healthcare technology staffing placements.
Look at Noel teeing that up. Yeah. All right, everyone. Thank you for being here and joining us today. And we will do this again. We've been doing it every few weeks. So hope you'll join us again and be part of the conversation. Thanks for all your comments and participation. We appreciate it.
Have a good one, everybody.
Bye.